Happy Friday, SMITE fans, and welcome in. You guys are watching the SOC. Dolson and Mifflin will be taking you through it. And Miff, we've got a matchup I think that doesn't surprise anyone here. Spreed taking on Mind the Gap, two rosters that have been to the finals once or twice. 2-0s for both of these two teams in the semifinals, and now they get to face head-to-head here in the finals.
Between these two squads, Dolson, only one of them has got a ton of SPL talent on it. I mean, if you're a fan at home that likes to follow the scene, you know that Spreed's got players like Solo or Troll or Gaijay who have absolutely dominated, not only at this level, but at the top level. So I think that we can expect great things from them.
Yeah, I think so. Let's dive right in to picks and bans, Mifflin, for game number one between Mind the Gap and Spreed. And you start to look at some of the meta shifts that happen from the SPL level down to the SOC level. Do you expect any differences here, Mifflin? Does anything jump to mind role-wise, maybe God-wise, that you expect to see at this level that you might not see at the SPL level?
SOT, if my memory serves, is going to be playing in the jungle for this team, so that's going to be pretty exciting to see whether or not he's going to be able to adjust to that role swap. It's a widely different role compared to Soul Lane, but we know that he's got some experience playing some gods around there. He loves the Thor and Solo, he loves these picks, so I think that he can absolutely transition well, and, you know, it is going to be slightly easier games. This is still steep competition, but this guy's used to playing against SSG. He's used to playing against Ghost. So I think that we can certainly expect him to do well.
Yeah, it is interesting, kind of the role swap there, and maybe some of the priority that falls down to SOT as well. Cthulhu finds his way into the ban column. That is something I've noticed where at the SPL level, Amaterasu's this big solo lane pick, bullies everyone in the hands of certain players, nearly unkillable. But Cthulhu, it seems, down at the SEC and down at the SOC, maybe a little bit more prioritized, at least here in this case. Cthulhu banned, and Sun Wukong draws that first pick. Does that interest you at all, that priority of solo laners?
I think it's due largely, in fact, that Cthulhu is a god that requires a decent amount of focus and drafting to be able to counter. That's why we see the Nemesis and Achilles usually get picked into it. So I think that even at the SEC and SOC, they don't really want to have to dedicate so many resources towards addressing one player in particular when you can go ahead and take it out with a ban. And just how the meta has shifted as you look at this league. I mean, a Willis, Kuzembo, and Hebo on the first phase from Mind the Gap. It just seems like there is like a large shift here, a large shift in mentality as well. It's just about what you should be prioritizing.
Sure, and we'll see how the rest of that priority plays out. As Cupid has been locked in, Nemesis as well. We brought up Nemesis and some of her values against the Cthulhu, but obviously in the jungle will be strong for Solo or Troll. Rom, of course, the immediate answer back. This is sort of the hunter duo that we've started to see effectively all the time here. Rom on one side, Cupid on the other, if neither of them are banned out. But how about this? The Cabrakan locked in with the Sun Wukong already in as well. So looking like a Rom Cabrakan duo lane, Miff. Is that something that can work?
It absolutely can. Aggression's going to be very good. Cupid doesn't have a jump, so you should be able to lock him down pretty easily. Just a little bit of poke to set up for the Astral Barrage to find the ultimate from a range from Rom as well. But I'm not wholly convinced that it's going to be Cabrakan support just yet. Layers, the jungler from Mind the Gap, has been known to play Cabrakan jungle. That was back in Season 4, though, way back when. But I think that it definitely fits his play style. We'll have to wait and see just a little bit how this draft rounds itself out.
All right, could still be flexible there for Mind the Gap. Second wave of bans starting off as Sobek locked in. I think that one a little bit more confirmable in that support role, though, I suppose. Could see him out of solo as well. Mid lane focused for Spreed in their final two bans here. The Nuwa drawing some attention. Merlin as well. Merlin, a pick that we don't see all that often prioritized at the SPL level. Why do you think you might see him banned out here by Spreed?
It's very easy to sneak away early objectives with Merlin. He's got some of the best objective burn in the game. That's something that hasn't really changed about him since he's come into the scene. And I think that down here at the SOC, it's really, really important to be on top of your Gold Fury timers, on top of your Pyromancers, because that's generally where we start to see disparities grow, if not through an absolute mud fight. When we're in North America, we might absolutely see that today. But I think it's a smart ban as well, because Erupt Crimson, one of the old box boys on mid lane for Mind the Gap, has a pretty
Does
unorthodox
he have a
mid lane
Zeus?
god pool. He does. I don't want to see the Zeus though. I don't want to see it at all. We saw Zeus. Okay, cool. Cool.
All right. Well, look, Aggro's not here. I mean, Aggro yelling, into the wind somewhere with excitement. Never see him. I mean, you never see Zeus. Why do we see Zeus here? I mean, is he something that can work? Obviously, he can do damage. He's a mobile, which is maybe his largest downfall. Why pick him? Why is Mind the Gap going with the Zeus here?
Oh man,
I have no
I was
idea.
gonna say what makes him strong, and then I look over at Spreed's comp and Nemesis, hard counter Zeus, Sobek's really good into Zeus, even Discordia is gonna be pretty strong into Zeus. I guess you could say that they've got a very strong front line between Sun Wukong, Kabrakan, and Guan Yu, able to create space for the Zeus. They've got CC lockdown, be it through the 72 transformations or even just the Kabrakan wall, kind of creating that OG pseudo combo of the Onin cage into Zeus ult, this time Kabrakan cage into Zeus ult. But if I were to accurately identify why they are picking Zeus, I'd have to say it's because Crimson likes playing Zeus. It's a god that he thinks is fun, and it should be fun to watch.
Sometimes the merits of the individual god can go by the wayside if the player playing them is just that good, right? It's the ultimate comfort pick, I suppose, in that territory. This one's going to be a lot of fun to see how Zeus plays, though. Guan Yu, final pick in here for Mind the Gap. So we'll have to see where the Sun Wukong, the Guan Yu, the Kabrakan all end up. Game number 1 between Mind the Gap and Spreed here in the finals of the SOC. And it is indeed Quig on the Kabrakan over there in that duo lane. Layers will be piloting that Guan Yu out of the jungle. Does that sort of orientation make the most sense to you, where these gods end up landing?
Yeah, I think it could absolutely work out. Kabrakan and Guan Yu's trading roles between the two would be just fine as well. I think that it's really that Layers wants to be able to get involved a little bit earlier on through raw damage output. It's going to be much easier for him to gank the duo lane once he does get that cavalry charge online, just because Guy J, being on a Cupid, is going to be very exploitable. You can just use your ultimate to avoid the Fields of Love. Talu Assault's going to be very hard for that lane to disrupt if Lucan's dash is down as well. So I think I like this Guan Yu pick for Layers. And up against Nemesis is not going to have a lot of pressure coming his way. Guan Yu is a pretty early game pick out of the jungle, but not really that paragon of pressure that you'd expect to see something like an Erlang Shen or a Robin to do. But against Nemesis, you've got that little buffer period while she's really struggling to come online.
You wonder then, right, as Doug hovers it here, why Crimson might have opted for the full-on boots build. We see some mid laners move in towards that, maybe gives him a little extra strength right off of the bat. SOT and Layers poking back one another just a little bit. Might help him dodge out a few of the strifes maybe that Spreen has been hitting a little bit here in the mid lane. So Crimson opting for that boots build to start off over there in mid.
He is, and it should help him out with sustain as well. Zeus is a god that struggles a little bit with clear. It's very easy to disrupt his early game clear if you just auto-attack him once to move the minions out of the way. All of a sudden that shield isn't getting a ton of value, as Blugan finds a nice little pluck on a Griff.
God, Sobek's so tough to play against. The moment there's a window, you got to imagine the Sobek is moving in, just as SOT is as well. Blink on forward, beads used, but look at the patience from the rest of Spree to slow on in on the engage. It's a double kill for SOT, and what a worthwhile gang. Crimson rotating over as well. Layers is moving himself in, stun onto Blugan. Crimson hasn't gotten the kill just yet. The dash away from Guy J, and the detonation not enough. And SOT already on a killing spree 2 minutes in. Layers pulls back one, but it's a small silver lining for what is now a 3-1 Nemesis 2 minutes into the game.
Not what you want to see when you've got the more aggressive jungler on your side of the map. This Nemesis is going to be a huge threat already has the boots 2 available, respawns just in time as speed buff spawns as well, so we're not even missing a beat on the jungle path clear. And you know what? I'll go ahead and say it. We're 2 minutes in. That's why we don't see Zeus very often. His damage isn't very confirmable. The chain lightning just kind of hops its way into a minion wave, so it doesn't get a ton of damage off there. Could only find 2 procs on the detonate as well, so the Blugan gets to survive that situation. And it was a slow rotation despite having the boots advantage as well. I'm not convinced yet. I'm going to have to see some more from Crimson.
I agree. A small trade, though, a small pullback for Mind the Gap. His purple buff is dropped down by Layers, but immediately on the other side of the map, SOT invades the Mind the Gap blue buff there. So now SOT, it kind of feels like he has a blank check to rotate throughout this map, starting off at 3-0, and you have a somewhat immobile mage in the mid lane. You wonder if Crimson now has to play extra careful because SOT is now reached level 5, and he's got some good power in his back pockets as he finishes off the Warrior Tabi.
He does, and Crimson being a Zeus means that the best thing he could do is detonate somebody if he wants huge damage. Nemesis 3 hard counters that. All you have to do is wait for the charges to stack up, press 3, all of a sudden Zeus isn't allowed to use that ability, as well as not having any sort of mobility in his kit, doesn't have the slow immunity that he used to, doesn't have the stun for self-peel. He has just got the slow from the Nemesis, or from the Chain Lightning, which is going to be hard to land in general. Nemesis should very easily be able to lock him down with at least a little bit of assistance from this Discordia, so I expect that this Zeus is going to play a little bit further back for the coming minutes, but he does pick up the Warrior's Blessing, which makes me think that he's looking to get scrappy early on.
Layers rotates over to the long lane once more. This will be a numbers advantage for Mind the
Nice
Gap.
block.
Pluck disengaged from Blugan, but he's trembled on in by Quig. The support's duty to be the one to fall down as Guy J will walk away. A successful gank then for Mind the Gap to pull back 1.
If Blugan doesn't hit the pluck, as soon as he does there, Layers immediately goes into the cavalry charge once he sees Guy J's dash go down, and there's nothing he would have been able to do to escape out of that situation. So good heads-up awareness from Blugan there to realize immediately that he has to trade out his life if he wants to keep the ADC alive. I respect that play.
Guy J then will be able to drop the Fields of Love onto Griff, force about half of the ROM's HP bar on down. Spreed, with this amount of pressure, will be able to rotate over, grab their own purple buff this time. I don't see Quig lurking anywhere around. But I think good play there by Layers, despite SOT getting an early 3-kill lead here, keeping up that pressure on the Guan Yu, and is actually looking for a little bit more here, wondering if he was going to poke his head into that speed buff side, but SOT they're lurking as well. Blugan makes his way over to mid, rotating over, but Crimson senses him out, but Heed is here as well. Heal popped by Layers, and now it's the Lightning Storm dropped down by Crimson, so the Zeus will be able to walk away, but how about Layers? He's taken way too much damage here, will sustain just a little bit, but suddenly Wolves is left alone, plucked back in by Blugan, and he will dash his way away as Heed won't have the follow-up there, and Spreed continue to force pressure, and they'll get another blue buff on the right-hand side.
Another blue buff, the beads off of Zeus as well. Now, Mind the Gap are in a very hard position to play around anything aggressively. If Spreed want to, they can continually look for invades. If they keep this pressure up in the 3v3, Crimson's gonna feel incredibly unsafe. He doesn't have the Lightning ultimate, he doesn't have his beads. There's still so much lockdown potential on the side of Spreed. It doesn't even necessarily have to be Nemesis doing all the work there. If Blugan finds an abduct in the center of the map, the follow-up from Discordia should just be enough. There's just so much that Zeus has to worry about. And I'm just so surprised. Again, I'm still sitting on it 6 minutes into the game. So surprised to see it. But yeah, I know who Crimson is. I've played against this guy a lot. He's one of the console OGs. And he loved this pick back then as well. But the meta has shifted so much since then that it's so hard to get away with these immobile mid lane mages. I'm worried about how well he's going to be able to transition into the mid game, but so far he's been doing a good job. Despite falling down early, he's got a no level disparity between his enemy. Correct. He should be able to transition all right as long as he keeps it up.
SOT has made his way over to the short lane. Wolves has to use the ultimate. Heed has rooted him on down. Ultimate dropped by Solo or Troll. This will be a kill, 4th of the game for the Nemesis as he makes his way to the solo lane. An immediate answer, though, by Layers as he moves on in onto Spreen. Quig locks in the Discordia, and Layers now answers back in kind. Good play for Mind the Gap to counter out that pressure. Blugan has to dash away. Guy J does the same. It's a 1-for-1 on either side of the map.
It is. Luckily, Spreed was able to confirm their purple buff right before the invade came through there as well. Nice use of the Cabrakan ultimate to lock in the cavalry charge just to make sure that there's no juke potential for the Discordia. I really like seeing that one. It's interesting to see how willing they are to get aggressive despite falling behind early, but Spreed doing the exact same on the opposite side of the map.
No, Wolves 2 levels behind. What a read from Heed as Wolves is pushed on back, and now the Cullen pulls 2 levels ahead. Guy J attempting to dodge out some of the snipes from Griff, and the combat roll away will keep him alive, but the fighting is not over. Mind the Gap send 2 over to the solo lane. Heat is stunned down, and the Trembles come out from Quig to lock in 3. There's a bit of a double stun from Quig as well. Zeus on the rotation over from the mid lane, drops down the Lightning Storm, and Spreed is in range, but Crimson has found nothing. A double kill for SOT, and Layers left running. The only thing Mind the Gap pick up is a solo kill onto Gaijay for Griff.
Hey, props to Griff. Gaijay's an SPL ADC, but losing out a little bit more on the right side of the map. Layers getting caught out. SOT with the ultimate's able to pick that one up. And now Wolves just gets back to lane and just makes it out by the skin of his teeth. Well played. Oh, never mind. I hold that thought. Yeah,
That's
good stuff, Heat. Yeah, Caster's Curse. You know how it is.
A 3-level lead now for Heat out of the solo lane. I mean, all across the map, Mifflin. This is going bad, except for Griff. The 1-level lead he holds over Gaijay is the saving grace here. It's 2 levels for Bluegan, 1 level for Spreen. And maybe that rotation from Crimson kind of shows some of the weaknesses of Zeus, maybe in the current meta. Stun not there onto Bluegan, but the Sobek has used his dash. Gaijay close by. Does not have the Fields of Love. Stunned short once again from Quig. And Bluegan will have to blink away. And the final snipes will not be used on the Sobek, so Bluegan able to get away. But that felt like ideal scenario for Crimson, didn't it? You rotate over, you get 2 in your Lightning Storm, but still you're not able to confirm any kills?
Yeah, 2 in the Lightning Storm for at least 3 ticks. You get a chain lightning off that wasn't dispersed into a wave. Detonate doesn't get immune by Nemesis 3. And somehow just about everyone survives anyway, and you lose out on your own life. That you're right. That was ideal situation for Zeus to pop off, and it just doesn't really work out. But I think Crimson is trying to address the weaknesses there. He realizes that if his initial ability rotation isn't going to kill, he's not going to win the fight, which is why we see a small adaptation in his build, the Warrior's Blessing, for that additional true damage, as well as this Rod of Tahuti to finish off these kills once they do fall low. I think that he's realizing the weaknesses and trying his best to cover them, but already the weaknesses have opened them up to falling so far behind. It's 4,000 gold already.
Well, here you go. Big damage from Layers. Quig, though, takes some as well. Layers alone in the backline. Spreen detonates him. Quig trying to lurk away over by the red buff as well. SOT, he's rampaging. 7 kills now in this game. That's an easy one for Heat. It's a double kill for SOT. The Hydra's Lament and Stone Cutting Sword combo doing absolute work. This will be a Gold Fury, a red buff steal, and Spreed starting to run away with this game.
They really are, man. This is back-breaking a lead this large so early on in the game. 5,000, nearly 6,000 gold, 7,000 experience, even more important. And SOT is looking to just kill anyone who walks his way. Fortunately, it's Layers. He should be able to get out. Oh my god!
Has to use the dash. That's too much damage, Mifflin. It can't be allowed to happen. Nerf all the junglers, right? I mean, this is a perfect game for you to be on. Look at... No, I'm kidding. SOT playing so well here. 10-1-3, has participated in 13 out of 14 kills, 10 of them in his own back pocket. Nowhere is safe for Mind the Gap here at this point, and this is where SOT, I think, can just get aggressive, move in, steal away any buffs that he wants. He can effectively 2v1 likely, and that's maybe why he's starting to run towards Crimson. It'll keep himself safe for the time being. Now you have to address, I think, the big question. Unless Crimson walks back idly towards the mid lane. Bluegan holds on to his pluck, might not have to use it, but SOT will add one more here. Quig walks in, drops the wall. That's the opposite side of where you want SOT locked in. A double kill for the Nemesis, and this one's snowballing, Mifflin, 12 minutes in. How does the catch-up game look? Not the condiment, but the ability to return back into the game from behind. Look for Mind the Gap here 12 minutes in.
Well, I know Mind the Gap have some ardent fans, so maybe we get a little DDoS attack roll through as Wolves catches out Bluegan in the jungle alone. Talu Assault running away a little bit of that defense. The chase is on. He should fall down here, but that is the support. It's not a huge deal. He doesn't have any kills, so he's not even worth that much at this point. The objective's already down inside a Gold Fury, so there's not much that Mind the Gap should be able to do with this little bit of pressure for the next 15 seconds. The comeback game is possible. It's possible. I'll go ahead and say that there is a non-zero chance that Mind the Gap come back and at least make this game a little bit more competitive. And it's going to revolve around Erupt Crimson trying to get a little bit of that lead cut. Now 2 levels separating between him and Spreen. If he's able to close that gap just a little bit, get some of this penetration online, and really make use of Mind the Gap's draft, have these 3 frontliners creating space. Crimson's poke potential is very high on the Zeus. If they could just make it to these late game team fights, I could see this comp working out. But how are they going to get there 8,000 gold down? That's the real question. I don't think they will either.
You know what sucks is, like, aggro at this point is just going to clip this entire game and bring it to our next balance meeting, right? I mean, he always brings up the meme and how he needs to be buffed and all this sort of fun stuff. Now he's got concrete evidence that he's going to bring to the table, and we got to hear about it. But maybe it makes some sense. I think it's hard to hang this one all on Zeus. You know, we've seen the moments where he could have made an impact and maybe didn't. But really, SOT is just the driving force here. Found some early pressure and converted that. What, he got a 3 kills 2 minutes in? I mean, that's just good snowballing, I think, from Solo or Troll, Zeus or not, I think, to be fair, for Mind the Gap. And nothing really to fight over at the moment, but 14 minutes in, Spreed is so far ahead. Heat is proxying beneath the Tier 2 tower and the Phoenix and doing more so than that. He might just solo out Wolves here. I'm waiting to see how Mind the Gap want to answer. I mean, Wolves at this point, it's probably not even worth trying to save because that happens over the middle lane. Then Crimson will fall for the 5th time this game. The only thing that's a positive here is Wolves will be able to blink out and stay alive. But it's so awkward, I think, right now for Mind the Gap. They don't know where they can stand because nowhere is safe unless you're in behind a Phoenix, it seems like.
Yeah, SOT is just a bear trap at this point. Step into his range, you're going to lose a leg and your life because he's got this crit available to him now as well. It picks up the rage to finish off this build, and he's using it incredibly well. Yeah, put number 14 on the board.
Didn't this happen last time we watched SOT play in the SOC? I feel like last time we saw SOT, I mean, it was bordering on BM. I'm not going to say it was, but it was just effectively farming the enemy team. And right now, they still have ground and map pressure to make up.
Oh, my God.
But they're just, I don't know, man. They're just camping behind the Tier 2 tower, getting all of the kills they want. Griff now gets the 4th kill of the game. Let's go Mind the Gap. But
Rip.
He's going to fall, and SOT is going to, let's see, that was 1 auto attack.
Big shell.
Dashes through 2 auto attacks.
This is toxic!
That's what I mean, dude. I said, didn't that happen last time? I thought it happened last time, and I know it. Look, when you got 17 kills on the board, a fully stacked Rage, 16 minutes in, I suppose you can do it. His ult is back up now. Yes! He flew too close to the sun. He got a double kill anyway. God, my brain is melting, bro. My brain is on fire. It's the Tier 2 tower in mid and right that'll go down. And this is a bit of justice. Finally, all of the fighting that was going on in the lanes between mid and left and all that sort of fun stuff. Finally, Spree to get those minion waves pushed up and start to push in that map pressure instead of just farming kills.
Dave, legitimately, they didn't push those minion waves up. They just fought between the towers for so long and accidentally killed Mind the Gap's waves as they spawned. They naturally pushed into the towers. This is purely toxic playstyle here.
No!
And you know what? There we go. Now Spreen falling as well. Maybe you look. You're not SOT, bud. You're not allowed to stand in the enemy jungle alone. You don't do 600 damage per auto attack. But it doesn't really matter. They can't step up to the neutral objective. Mind the Gap just have to continually sit under these Phoenixes. This Tier 2 tower on left is free game for just about anyone who wants to walk over there and sneeze on it. And just take a peek at SOT's build, because it tells a story. He goes into the stone cutting sword early on because he pulls a lead and knows he can sit in the fight very early. Then he goes into hi-rez because he just wants additional burst. He realizes he's fragging. And now he's like, oh, I'm bodying and I'm getting kills on cooldown. Let me just full stack a rage. And I'm assuming it's likely going to be a Deathbringer next. So Deathbringer plus rage, you're going to get around 70% crit. And then the hi-rez proc on top of it. He might just two-shot Crimson every single time.
Yeah, Crimson, well, he has the upgraded shell. So a couple of those autos will be absorbed. All right, this is the 3v1 chance for SOT. He did two-shot layers, I think, in that moment. The least hype team fight you'll ever see. As far ahead as Spreed is here. 2 members down for Mind the Gap. Wolves will leap away. This point feels a bit like playing with your food. It would be an early FG, but Spreed could obviously do it, but when you're this far ahead, I suppose you don't need to. Let's waltz our way in here. Guy J, despite being 0-2 and 8, and Griff having 4 kills, Guy J has a 2-level lead here. So mid lane Phoenix being sieged down, SOT just passively whacking away at Wolves, who will dash away here. The crit does ring through. He's gonna tank the Titan, but he has to double dash away. Griff is somewhat powerful here. Oh, the sidesteps. SOT lives, but Layers chases him down. Griff snipes away the Nemesis for only the 3rd time this game, but it's a double kill for Guy J. Wolves and Crimson, the last 2 alive, and a double knock up there. There's some cleave damage from Crimson. Yeah, baby! Down goes Guy J. As the minions walk their way in. A nice stripe over the wall, but you lost it. What did it cost? A mid lane Phoenix and all the map pressure you didn't have. It's just gotten worse.
Hey, we can still celebrate a small win for the boys. Putting a 3rd death on the SOT despite 20 kills, 6 assists, 26 out of 28 kill participation out of the jungler for Spreed, by the way. But it doesn't matter. We finally got a kill. That's 1,000 gold into Griff's pocket. There you go. Now we're starting to see these guys come online. I'm being completely facetious. I think Spreed can end this game at the drop of a hat. If they choose to, they could walk in and play clean for half a second, and this Titan will fall. But Blugan setting a trap by himself. Nobody's there if you even hit the pluck, buddy, so he's just going to leave that situation to himself. Go to Fire Giant, Spreed. Let's get on to game 2. Let's move on to the next one. This victory lap has been nice. It's been an 18-minute victory lap. I think I'm ready to see the next one.
Well, the power of farming shows through here. He to level 19, and SOT, despite having 20 kills, well, just now reaches level 19, but Layers 4 levels behind won't fare much longer. Let's see if Wolves can turn this one around. Massive health discrepancy here. Big 1v1 as the rest of the team falls for Mind the Gap over in the jungle. And this likely looking like the game here, Mifflin, as Spreed, despite low health bars, can walk their way into the mid lane. Some fire minions alongside of them, but it's Wolves and Quig against a 21 kill solo or troll, a level 19 Heed, and a Titan that I'm not sure wants to fight SOT any more than the rest of Mind the Gap does. He does get some good damage in, but it's not going to matter here. Spreed are going to walk this one in, and in 20 minutes, Spreed will take game number 1, the most anticlimactic ending I maybe have ever seen. And SOT puts on an absolute clinic here in game number 1, and they're going to do it to me and draw things out here. Come on, you got to end it! I'm calling the game over. Layers and Crimson back alive! Here he comes! He doesn't have the lightning storm. Layers chasing down. Oh, come on! SOT dodges the snipes. Layers gets the kill. And Mind the Gap stay alive once more. A double kill onto SOT. Guy J will fall to Griff as well. Mifflin, here we go, baby! It's the turnaround. The 6 and 8 Layers. 6 kills on Griff as well. My eyebrows are raised. My eyebrows are raised indeed.
Wait, Layers is in trouble.
He's gonna do it. He's so low. Okay. Oh, Layers gets the kill. It's a deicide, bro. Mind the Gap, deicide. 21 minutes in. And what can they take? I guess a pyro. I don't know if you feel comfortable.
Go for fire. You gotta go for fire.
Mind the Gap. We're looking for it.
They have to pull it here. They've got 15 seconds left on the next spawn. It's gonna be Spreen. I don't even think Blue can get there in time to stop this from happening. There's yeah, that's what's good for Zeus there. Chain lightning off the shield. Only one person to bounce to. Fire Giant never stood a chance. And now we're starting to see it come back a little bit. The hubris before the fall. Only 7,000 gold separating these two teams 21 minutes in. We were looking at 10k at 10 minutes, and that meant a lot more. As time goes on, this gold is meaning less and less and less. If Mind the Gap can stop even 2 more pushes from Spreed, they might be able to just straight up win this. Spreed played with their food a little bit too long.
Look, the Titan's at half HP. Mid lane Phoenix is about to come back up, so Spreed can group and walk in.
Against Fire Giant.
Whether that's true, they have FG on Mind the Gap. Whether or not Spreed do that is the big question here. They will group for the Primal Fury, and after that, no more respawning objectives left available for Spreed. They cannot delay any longer. There's still a tier 2 tower over on the left-hand side, so maybe that's where Spreed start to turn their attention. I'm gonna call things too soon here. Mind the Gap take a bit of a deep breath, and it takes moving heaven and earth, and SOT tanking the Titan, but they've pushed back a wave and now might have the most even fight we've had since about the 10-minute mark.
Look, Dave, I don't want you to think for a second that you called it wrong. They decided to farm damage in the enemy fountain instead of slaying the Titan. I think that you were absolutely right to call the end when you did. Interesting to see that Spreed are still feeling confident. I mean, maybe it's not so interesting considering how they've been playing the rest of the game, but it seems like they're very willing to push in despite 5 members having Fire Giant on the side of Mind the Gap. But it is a slow push. Everyone's about to return to base. It seems like they're just trying to extend this time, wait for the Fire Giant buff to wear off. Do I fight if I'm Spreed? If I'm SOT, I'm fighting every single chance I get. I'm looking for the 30-kill moniker, if you catch my drift. But he does pick up Blood Forge, which is going to be very good for him now. That's going to give him that additional health shield once he picks up kills inside of these team fights. We know he doesn't have any key besides W, so that should help him out a lot as he takes these fights elongated inside the enemy Titan or Fountain, wherever he decides to take his next fight. But it seems like we're seeing a little bit of patience from the boys in red. Instead of jamming it down, they're going to wait for the objective.
Look, no bias at all, but there's some weird world where, like, Mind the Gap win this, and it's the nuttiest thing I've ever seen. So I'm not saying I'm pulling for it, but Spreed definitely could have ended the game a few moments ago. They're still very far ahead at this point, though.
Very.
A minute and 20 seconds left on the FG buff, a little bit of patience, as you point out, but now the minion wave's starting to work their way in. So maybe it's that minute and 15-second mark or the 1 minute mark, rather, on the Fire Giant timer on the left-hand side of your screen there that we start to look out for. But, I mean, level 20 now for Layers, full build. He's got the Heartseeker. Wolves only a couple levels behind. Crimson now level 19. Griff has been the kill leader for his team the entire game. He's now reached level 20. Sells off a Blessing, likely for another final item here in just a moment. Maybe a pot is what he ended up picking up there. As time has gone on here, all jokes aside, and I might have to buckle down and get serious again, Mind the Gap has closed the gap just a little bit more. There's only 30 seconds left on that safety blanket. What's that?
Yeah, let me get serious for a second, but check out this sick pun that I've been working up. Good stuff, Dave.
Yeah, that was sweet,
Spreed,
man.
Spreed have effectively waited out this Fire Giant. 15 seconds left till it wears off, and they don't even have to wait for the objective. They're still sitting at about a 10,000 gold lead. They could just wait 10 more seconds, the Fire Giant buff wears off, and then W key their way in there. I wouldn't expect anything else from the boys right now. And it seems like that is the plan. We're starting to see a 4-man grouping on that right-hand side of the map, trying to strip away this Phoenix. With the grouping as it is, and instead of grouping on the duo side, it makes me think that they're just trying to keep pressure up. If they potentially find a pick, good for them, but they're waiting for the opportunity to fall back to Fire Giant once it does respawn. Blugan goes in.
Crimson dashed on and then immediately knocked up. Truth be gone, and Blugan will pick up that kill. Griff on the back line, trying to roll his way away. It's a double strife in onto Quig and Wolves to delay the rest of that fight. SOT, 23 kills now in the mid lane. He'll get it done himself over Layers, but look at Quig. He's trembled out a couple members of Spreed. Guy J starting to swing away, though, as well. Will get rid of the Cabrakan. Wolves right on back in. Blugan gone. Spreen gone as well. Griff rolls out of the fountain. 3 members of Spreed working their way in towards the Titan. Mid and right Phoenix both gone. Now I wonder if Spreed will want to hang around, and they might. Oh, it's a blink in from SOT. Goodbye. Oh my, Griff evaporates, and now the Titan being looked at from Spreed. Delay it no longer. This time I might be correct in saying that Spreed will finally finish out the game in 27 minutes.
Yeah, nobody's left alive on the side of Mind the Gap for them to pad their damage stats on, so might as well close this one out. 26 minutes in. Surprisingly could have been an 18-minute game, but well played, from Mind the Gap to keep their mental in place. I'd have been F6ing that every single day of the week, so power to him for just sticking in there. Spreed, well played, absolutely steamrolling your opposition, making it look like they didn't know how to play the game for the first couple minutes, and then maybe throwing it away a little bit with your hubris and arrogance. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if you find the dub, I can't fault anything you did on the field.
Oh, look, it's our job to rebuild up that tension, maybe Mind the Gap work back in, but it was never looking all that likely. Spreed far and away ahead in this game from minute 1. Remember, 3 kills from SOT is what got us there, and then I think 23 or 24 kills by the end of things. Massive game of the jungler for Spreed. We'll take a quick break and see if Mind the Gap in game 2 can work out some of those fixes and push us on to a game 3. Stick around. Well, in a break that lasted longer than the evenness of that early game there, we are back now before game number 2. Mifflin, I think it's a dream come true for you in this one. A jungler just runs out of control, is two-shotting carries and mid laners, running things down, and no, that's not an error. That is 25 kills for SOT, more than the rest of Mind the Gap combined. But how do we get there? What does SOT do here that gives him that lead?
He cringe ganked duo lane and picked up a triple kill off a counter rotation from a Zeus. Because you show up at level 3 while duo's still level 2, you could be farming the jungle, you could be playing the 2v2 in mid, or you could show up and just take an unfair advantage as far as XP is spread out.
So you've never done that?
Take a fight. No, me? No, I have honor.
You've never ganked duo lane at level 3?
Alright, look, Dave, you don't have to blow up my spot. Okay, yes, when I'm sweating in ranked, I might gank duo lane at level 3. But this is the SOC, alright? Samurai stuff. Show some respect to the enemy. This is exactly where it was.
He was level 2!
You're right. You're right. Maybe a little bit less cringe.
He's level 3.
He's level 3. There we go.
Right, I mean, that's the double kill, right? And then I think Crimson and Layers rotate over for the immediate third kill. And SOT never looked back. And you know, we've given SOT somehow not enough gas. You know, he fueled up with whatever the third option is when you go to the gas pump, the one that costs like 50 cents more. That's what SOT...
No way! Supreme?
Yeah, Supreme, man. You got that highest octane rating, and he's just doing this time and time and time again. And I think if we really want to start to root this back in some sort of actual analysis, I think what makes this even worse, outside of SOT obviously playing very well, is that we were nervous about Crimson and Griff and their ability to survive against the types of picks, 25 kills or not, that Spreed had. I think even composition-wise, Spreed had an advantage there. They also just happened to get 20 kills on their jungler in the meantime.
33 total affected kills from SOT. But we saw that Mind the Gap drafted a comp to work exactly around this Zeus, the triple frontline king protection comp, but your king is falling time and time again for 20 minutes non-stop. It doesn't matter how much protection you line up in front of him, because no one was able to protect him. If SOT made eye contact with you, like a Pokemon trainer, he attacked, and he decimated. He didn't lose a single fight, unless it was 1 versus 4, and occasionally he was taking those 1 versus 4s.
He sure was, and he was winning them more often than not. Yeah, the fifth man was the Titan when he just sort of walked in and took... I would argue the Titan did more damage to SOT in Game 1 than maybe anyone on Mind the Gap was able to do. Into picks and bans, though, for Game number 2. I think Spreed fine with leaving that Zeus open after Game number 1. There were moments where you kind of saw, all right, maybe this is where the Zeus can flourish. There was lock-in from Quig. The Trembles were there. Myth shaking his head. Look, I'm trying to find that silver lining here. I think nonetheless, Spreed will not have to worry about banning that one out. The adjustments then need to be on Mind the Gap's plate here. You maybe take away the Nemesis that just hung 25 kills on you. The Cullen even. I mean, if we're shifting the storyline away from SOT, Heat out of that solo lane had a great time as well. Wolves was kind of in the mix early and then started to snowball out of control there. But Myth, they're not changing anything as far as the bans go just yet. Spreed banning out Persephone Yamoja, 2 very strong bans. And then the Hebo makes 3 for Mind the Gap. So the same thing's open for Spreed if they want to go for it.
We're in salty run-back territory already. No adjustments in the bans from Mind the Gap. I would have liked to see a Nemesis ban, or maybe even Mind the Gap ban out Zeus from themselves. Just anything to make sure things don't go the exact same way. But Mind the Gap do have first pick here. They could take away the Nemesis for themselves if they so choose, but it's going to be the Sun Wukong. Again, a very safe pick, I thought, until last game. A very survivable pick, I thought, until last game. But it brings a lot of pressure. I mean, with Soul Eater being as strong as it is, I think it makes sense that we see this priority going towards this god aggro. 2 weeks back said he thinks it's one of the best gods in the game right now, at least out of the Soul lane, just because of the raw damage potential that he has and the ability to dive the backline. But you're leaving yourselves open to the exact same thing. Nemesis and Cupid again coming through.
Yep. Different order. Technically, Cupid was second pick in draft number 1 for Spreed, but now he's first pick, so there is a bit of a shift, at least in that department. No changes for Mind the Gap so far. The ROM, I guess, again, if we're finding these silver linings and things that looked good despite a devastating loss for Mind the Gap, Griff, throughout most of that early game, until the 10-minute mark, I guess you call that early game, had a level lead, had a kill lead. He was the one doing majority of the damage for Mind the Gap. Kabrakan, I think, maybe had his moments. I don't think the picks are bad necessarily. It's whether they go back to the Guan Yu, the Zeus maybe. But Myth, I think you're correct. We are entering the salty run-back territory here, at least for the first 3. Do you think warrants picks there for Mind the Gap, or do you want a complete rebuild from Game 1?
I wouldn't mind a complete rebuild, because already we're seeing this King Protection comp start to align itself again. 2 tanky frontliners picked up by Mind the Gap, Kabrakan and Sun Wukong. This Kabrakan pick, if it is going towards Quig again, I think is just not as good as some other picks out there. This could be a Kepri, it could have been a Sobek, it could have been anything else that's just way better in this current meta. The best we saw was maybe 1 cage lock-in for a Zeus ultimate, or 1 cage lock-in for a cavalry charge. But I think I saw maybe 3 or 4 cages from this Kabrakan that were just locking in his own team, creating a wall, an obstacle that they would have to get through while they trying to escape the war path that SOT was on. I mean, I think that if this is going to be a salty run back, if Mind the Gap do decide to run even all 5 members again, they can honestly say that it's very unlikely that SOT gets to reprise that exact same performance. It's not often that someone gets blown out that hard in the early game, a triple kill at 2 minutes. I think that this Nemesis can certainly work and is just a straight stronger pick, but it doesn't necessarily have to pull so far ahead. Okay.
All right. Let the heavens rage.
Okay.
Mifflin, up to this point, the only time we've heard "Let the heavens rage" is for the SMITE Maxinomic chair ad. When they roll that reel, we get to hear Zeus, and now we have to watch him for a second game in a row. 0% win rate still on Zeus here, by the way. Yeah, why not? Let's make it a full 5 for 5 here.
Poggers!
Mind the Gap. Full-on run back for Mind the Gap. And now just one Kilcullen away from Spreed running things back as well. I will say, we can again start to pivot here because you got to keep things fresh, keep things moving, and shift the conversation. Discordia, got dove on a decent bit by Mind the Gap, so a tough game, all things considered, for Spreen, but I actually didn't mind the way that Spreen performed in game number 1. I think the Discordia looked okay.
Yeah, I agree. Despite being one of the few people to actually fall in pick fights around his own jungle, he did look all right. And I think, again, that's afforded to him by having a Sobek on your team that he's fantastic at not only engaging, but also peeling out with Tail Whip or Sickening Strike to deal with some of the healing coming through from Guan Yu. Nemesis created infinite space, legitimately camping behind Tier 2 towers from the 10-minute point onward. So it's very hard for anyone on the side of Mind the Gap to close the distance into this Discordia. But again, it's a different game. We're loading in at level 1. We're not going to have SOT 7 levels up on his nearest opposition immediately off the rip. So I think that this draft can work out. I just wish it wasn't Zeus, man. Anyone besides Zeus, and I would be so much more confident in Mind the Gap's odds.
Look, we're wiping the slate clean. We are re-engaged, serious pants back on. This is now the chance for Mind the Gap to turn things around. Still Dave, still Mifflin, still Doug, who did a fantastic job of somehow spectating the chaos that was game number 1. Good highlighting from Doug immediately here, not any seconds into this game. An immediate pivot for Crimson won't be the boot start. Instead, standard Mage's Blessing into a little bit of lifesteal on the other end and a bit of a different variety.
It is, but it's going to be less lifesteal overall than he had before and less movement speed. And he was already getting exploited early on, so we might see Spreed, if they spot that out early enough, try and immediately exploit the fact that this is already struggling to survive Zeus is going to be a little bit less survivable until he gets those boots online. But it will afford him a little bit of cooldown, a little bit of mana sustain in lane if he decides to play safer and potentially just not even rotate to these side lane fights and instead prioritize farming for himself. This could be a nice little pivot for Crimson in mid. But again, it's Zeus. I'm so hesitant to evaluate the pros of this god because the cons far outweigh them in my mind.
All right, all eyes on SOT then. He has reached cringe territory at level 2. A double stun will set up some early damage. Level 2, though, for Bluegan immediately met. They might not need Solo or Troll. Griff reaches half HP, but a stun from Quig. Oh, he's cringe ganking! Or it's the other cringe gank over to the Soul Lane. He goes down layers, getting it done. As Mind the Gap will find the level 2 gank. SOT then maybe rotates over towards the red buff. Bluegan misses the puck over into the duo lane. The sidestep is there. Guy J trying to return some damage, able to do so. Bluegan hanging around here. Guy J's eating too much on the dash in. Gets it done. But Quig will be able to turn it around already. Chaos, a minute and a half in. Mind the Gap, though, ahead in the kill department.
They are. Griff just decides to stick into the fight there, and it works out for him because Gaijay is taking archers the entire time, but now Bluegan, a little bit low, has to be worried about the damage output from Gabrak, and instead he's going to fall back here. Better start for Mind the Gap. We're looking way better earlier on, and instead of having SOT rotate in early, it's going to be Layers. Bluegan's low on mana. That might be enough.
Oh, Layers is here, and Bluegan is not. Layers now 2 kills on the board, 2 minutes in. Maybe there's some merit to the salty run back the Guan Yu. A couple of kills on the board now. SOT left back and farming, did strip away a decent amount of the jungle. A surrender vote has started. Yeah, baby. Get me out. No, I'm just kidding. Mind the Gap. A better start here. So now, and this is, I think, Mifflin. Again, if we gotta reseat ourselves. I keep telling myself that. I think you're perfectly seated and serious. But
oh, thank you.
This is what we've wanted to see right out of Layers, or wanted to see rather in game number 1. Was this Guan Yu making an impact right away, and he's been able to do so. Now might have another gank opportunity. Doesn't have the cavalry charge. But he, realizing blue buff is up, will back away. So Layers, and spotted out by a ward. Layers already making the impact that he wasn't able to do in game number 1.
Yeah, I'm liking Layers' performance here already. He should be outpacing Nemesis in the early game at least, and we're already starting to see it that this Talu Assault can absolutely chunk. If he rotates in the team fight first, he can have so much more impact. The slow on the dash, the Warrior's Will, so strong as well. And once he ticks over to level 5, just about nobody's going to be safe from his ganks. Cupid, again, we said it in game 1. It didn't really come to fruition, but he's going to be very susceptible to the cavalry charge. I mean, even Discordia in mid, we got to see it at least one time that if her jumps down, she should likely just lose her life. That stealth essentially does not work against Guan Yu. Talu Assault being a channel ability that ticks so quickly means that you're going to be very easily capable of tracking her throughout that stealth. So I think that Layers getting off to a fast start is the biggest boon that Mind the Gap could possibly have hoped for. And 2-0 at 3 minutes, that's a very good pace. It's not the exact same pace that we saw from SOT last time, but that is a unreproducible pace that we saw from SOT. That is a once in 100 games potentially that you're going to get off to such a strong start on Nemesis.
Yeah, the rest of Spreed is looking at SOT right now, wondering where he is because he doesn't have 3 kills already. Instead, maybe an opportunity onto the Sun Wukong. No, once the Wukong reaches that level 5, despite how much damage Heat has been able to pour into Wolves, it's always going to be tough to gank him. Maybe then it's the long lane that draws the attention, and it is drawing the attention of Layers here. Bead still available for Guy J. No stun from Quig. That always feels bad. Dash away from Blugan, dash away from Guy J. And they will survive Layers' return to the long lane.
Yeah, nice little blink from Blugan there. If he didn't get the blink off, the pluck wouldn't have been enough to create the distance. The ultimate cavalry charge would have been enough to lock him down. Quig ticks over to level 5 after 2 minions, which means that Cage would have been available for the fight as well. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. Layers rotates over. He might not be able to find a kill, but he does strip away the purple buff. An already struggling duo lane, losing out on a little bit of additional farm.
I was wondering if maybe Spreed then take that as a cue to rotate to the blue buff. SOT might be thinking so, though Layers is starting to rotate his way over. Speed and then blue buff maybe in a moment as well. Solo or Troll, again, despite not having 3 kills on the board, has that ultimate and can do big damage. Wolves reads the invade, moves on in, but he's now been ulted by SOT. The double dash through, the damage is not there, but he might have some. Wolves dashing side to side will fall, but Quig picks up one onto SOT. Wall, but jump out from Heed. Crimson is here as well, and Crimson grabs the kill. Mind the Gap. Read this one well. They lose 1, but pick up 2, and what could be 3 on the back end.
Misses the Chain Lightning, doesn't have the shield available. Not much value out of the Zeus there. Only 1 tick from the ultimate. Layers' damage is ridiculous. He might be maxing the 2 right now, how much that chunked Spreen. But now Crimson, left alone, Blugan in the waters. He might not be long for this world.
Oh, you got that fully charged ult on the Sobek. That always hurts. No beads for Crimson. The body blocks there from Layers to hold him at bay, and Blugan will not hit the pluck, but now Layers is locked on in. SOT, he'll blink forward. Griff, he's got a solo kill again onto Guy J somewhere else, but Crimson finally tumbles, and if you're correct, it was the 2 max from Layers. And so maybe that's where a little of that extra damage is coming from.
Yeah, maybe he's worried a little bit of the disruption factor. It's really only Blugan and Guy J able to stop the Talu Assault. Maybe it's more of a burst thing that we're seeing that Layers is worried about here. But Griff has been getting the better end of Guy J in both games, consistently been able to win out on this matchup. In a matchup that I would favor Guy J in, just the ability to passively sustain through Cupid hearts. You can take small trades, use your abilities to poke out, then back up and heal. But instead, Griff is continually finding kills. That's surprising.
Layers cavalry charges in. Here's a bit of a 1v1 between the junglers, but Blugan there for the pluck as well. SOT nearly dies. That's Crimson providing most of the damage there. Blugan's still on the chase. Layers ticks over to level 7 to match that of SOT. No red buff invade to be had. Close, though. Maybe that, Myth, is some of the positives that we see out of Crimson on this Zeus. You can do good damage from range with some of those ricochets. Guy J happily boxing with Griff here. Griff low, blink in from Quig, and that's an easy kill for Quig. A bait 3-0-2, now a killing spree for the Cabraca.
Man, Griff playing with fire, though. It was only... Had Guy J not missed just 2 of those auto attacks, Griff's life is absolutely forfeit in that situation. A nice rotation from Quig is able to lock that one down. The dash still wasn't available for the Cupid, so there's really no way he survives that situation. Fields of Love also just comes up as well. so there's no turnaround potential. But it feels like this game, Spreed not having the early game aggression doesn't really know how they want to group up. Instead, it's not even a reactionary playstyle. They're just playing the map separately from Mind the Gap. And now we're starting to see a little bit of disparity grow. 7-3 is the kill column, but as far as farm goes, because Spreed is just kind of ignoring everything that's happening and instead farming up the neutral camps and everything along those lines, there really isn't that much of a gold disparity. XP maybe slightly in favor of Mind the Gap throughout that duo lane, but even then, only half a level, a quarter of a level is what we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, dead even as far as gold goes, 1,000 in the XP department. Spreed still a driving force, not quite as heavy as game one, but finding those buffs to pull on away from Mind the Gap. It's the red buff most recently to get taken down by Blugan. And all in all, you know, a slightly better performance from Crimson here on this Zeus. Not that, again, he played miserably in game one. It's hard to compete with what SOT was doing. And maybe a bit of a different start is going to open up this Zeus to a slightly different build. He's looking towards some more of that heavy lifesteal early on. We obviously saw the trinket locked in. Now he's got the shoes of the Magi again, as well as that Bancroft's Talon first item.
Yeah, Bancroft's Talon is fear in his heart as Quig gets plucked. It immediately feels a love is dropped, but Layers is here.
Yeah, Cavalry charge to get into the back line of Spreed. Blugan lurking in the waters, a little bit of chunk damage, a nice wall from Quig. Will slow down the rest of Spreed moving on in. Good answer from Spreed there to sense out Mind the Gap on the purple buff invade.
I like that cavalry charge from Layers as well. He uses it immediately to separate Guy J from the fight and making sure that he can't optimize his damage off that Fields of Love, forces him to retreat, and then immediately, instead of committing to the fight, Layers 180s and retreats to his own team as SOT, a little bit deep in the enemy jungle, but should be safe, still has those double dashes from Nemesis. This Bancroft's Talon from Erupt Crimson is a very strong pivot from him. We've seen that the best way to counter Zeus is to just dive onto him. Now, when he's low health, he just does more damage.
Ah, they're boxing one another here. Will the detonate get him into this guy? Guy J escapes with his life. Quig does have Blink, but Guy J has the dash. The last bit of mana he had, I think, to get that one done. And no walls for Quig. An extra sustain. He's still just going to walk in at Guy J. He will get the clap damage in, but Blugan there on the tail whip, and then the pluck. And the tower shots might just get it done, but that's a kill handed over to SOT. That's a tough one, I think, to read there, Miff, where Quig, yeah, he's got 4 kills online, but you gift a free one over to SOT.
Yeah, not worth. Normally it's worth for the support to pick up a kill in exchange for an ADC, but because all the kills so far have been landing on Quig, or at least a vast majority of them, he was 4-0 by the time he fell. That bounty that SOT just picked up is huge, probably about 600 gold in his pocket for killing Quig. So he's able to pick up the level 2 hi-rez. He's already got the stone cutting. We're moving to that one-shot territory. And despite such a strong start for Layers, it's actually SOT who's pulling slightly ahead.
Heat as well over in the solo lane. That was much of the story of game one as well, where this Cullen was just bullying out the Sun Wukong. Maybe that's something we need to start expecting to see, where Sun Wukong, even at the SPA level, has been a driving force out of the solo lane without much of an answer, but Heed might have something here. A double knockup from the Cullen, lightning storm down, but Spreed just ignoring it. The walls doing no favors for Crimson. SOT is dove Layers as well. Spreed now starting to pick up the momentum just a little bit. Beneath the tier 1 tower go a couple members of Mind the Gap, and Spreed are going to back themselves away, a couple kills in tow.
Yeah, and remember how many kills Mind the Gap had. They're still in the kill lead, but we're looking at 3,000 gold in favor of Spreed. Yeah, it's just a couple of kills, some neutral objectives inside of the mid camps, and that's all it really took. And it's because, effectively, a lot of the gold lead was on Quig, who is the support, so he's trying his best not to farm it out too much. Now SOT, trying to get a little bit aggressive in the jungle, trying to make use of that stone-cutting sword as well, is going to be able to force out that ult. That might be enough!
Griff survives, but not for much longer. Blugan there upon his re-entry. Now there's the Strife, there's the Root. Layers looking for the Talu Assault to chunk down some damage. SOT survives. Apple just wide from Spreen, but the Detonate is there, and SOT rejoins the fray to the tune of another kill, and will shield out and heal up most of the damage there. Crimson on the Detonate did not get the kill. There's nice the stun from Quig, and then the clap, the follow-up damage. Chaos starting to reign on the left-hand side of the map here, but Spreed far and away ahead of these trades, looking like a deicide 13 minutes in, but it's the Sun Wukong. so he'll keep it at 4.
He's still got the Somersault Cloud available as well, but if he leaves completely towards the right side of the map, Gold Fury's still up, but he might have been able to disrupt this one, but instead, it should go the way of Speed for free. Griff doesn't have his ultimate, so he doesn't have any real way to steal this one either, and this gold lead again is starting to balloon out of control. Now 13 minutes into the game, and we're getting back to right where we were in Game 1. It was a little bit more of a roundabout path. SOT, not nearly as many kills this time around either, but still a very respectable slash line, 4, 2, and 5 for the jungler of Spreed, effectively affecting 9 of the 11 kills. And now Mind the Gap are in a position where they are capable of fighting, but the weaknesses of the draft have been exposed hugely. This Zeus is getting very little value. The dive potential from Spreed is enough to shut him down. The damage output is so telegraphed that even with SOT being on legitimately 15 health, he can't finish off the kill because Detonate is so easy to predict, especially with this recent nerf. I think it was about 2 months ago. Now Detonate has about 0.7 seconds of pre-fire time as it kind of displays to you that it's coming through, so now you can very easily react to that damage instead of having to predict it. I hate Zeus. Long story short, I hate Zeus, and I'm surprised to see it again.
You're kicking the man while he's down, poor guy. He's a cornerstone of Smite, and he's fallen on tough times, but Crimson willing to give him a go, and it hasn't worked out just yet. Really, it's the Kabrakan, the only thing that's working out, and Layers as well, falling off a little bit after a 2-0 start. Maybe turn things around here. It's a 3-level difference, though. You gotta be careful with your Layers. Fields of Love goes over. Guy J close to going down, had to burn the beads. Layers considering maybe a dive forward, but instead it's Spreed turning the fight towards the mid lane. Bluegan lurking down below. Wolves Somersault Cloud, but enveloped by the rest of Spreed. Quig dancing on around. Spreen jumped on, takes a good bit of his health, and the strafe will be just short. Wolves in on the chase. The Aegis will keep Spreen alive. Crimson, he's got the kill onto Guy J on the left-hand side of the map, but can Wolves stay alive? He sure can't, as SOT notches his 5th, Heed notches his 3rd, and it's a tier 1 tower that goes down for Mind the Gap, and they're maybe looking for tier 2 as well.
Yeah, as you see where that kill happened on that left side, it was essentially under Spreed's Phoenix. It's 2 separate dives on 2 parts of the map happening, but now Mind the Gap have overstayed their welcome. SOT healthy behind them, and are up Crimson, 1 shot.
He's got his ult, should he need it, and just for a bit of an insurance policy, we'll use it here. Griff, just shy of being hit with the apple there, but SOT is in on the chase. Layers has popped the heal, and watch out, it's Heed and Bluegan in on the backside. SOT might be able to bait it out a bit here, receive some healing, receive some shielding as well. Layers attempting to do the same, but not nearly as effective. Griff does snipe down, picks up 1, but Spreen will grab another for Spreed, and Griff will fall to Bluegan as well. It's a 2-for-1 trade, but you've maybe gotten a little bounty on SOT.
Picked up the bounty on SOT, picked up a tier 1 and tier 2 as well, was able to shut down Guy J for the 5th time on the beginning of that fight for Mind the Gap. And they were able to drag the attention of Spreed away. Had Spreed decided to, they could have stuck around and taken out that mid-tier 2 tower, but instead rotated in for those kills. It might have been a slight misplay. They could have just sent a couple members over to disrupt and at least pick up 1 of the kills while simultaneously taking the objective, but minions do a fair bit to it. That tier 2 and mid is 1 stiff breeze away from being knocked over, and it looks like Guy J might have its number.
Guy J might have just that breeze. A bit shy on the wall from Quig. Won't save Crimson here. The Trembles are out as Bluegan attempts to walk himself away, but Heed is locked in. Still has his ultimate if he wants the big time knockup, but instead, realizing Layers will have the cavalry charge, wants to move away. It's a 2-man knockup from Heed, but Wolves re-engaging. Thorns doing work, keeping Heed alive. Now it's Bluegan back in on the backside of the fight, and the strike will connect over onto Griff. SOT picks up the kill. Somersault Cloud will send Wolves off to the side. Layers being chased down by Bluegan, just waiting for that pluck. Maybe the double dash. Quig burns his stun to keep Bluegan at bay, but right back into the fray goes the Kabrakan. A double stun and a big tremble won't matter as Spreed picks up another.
And SOT getting a little bit saucy on the left side, trying to take a 1v1 up against Layers, creating space for this mid-Phoenix to happen. Luckily for Crimson on this Zeus, dying so often, being so low level, he's able to respawn just in time to get in towards this mid-Phoenix. It's still alive, but just barely. I don't think they've gotten through this push just yet.
No, the disrespect back from SOT bites some. Layers blinks in. gets the kill. Blugan is kind of low as well. Layers. Heed. What are you doing beneath the Phoenix, my man? A double kill suddenly for Layers. Griff trying to snipe down for another for Mind the Gap. Mifflin, this is exactly what we saw in Game 1. Spreed controlling everything. And Mind the Gap mounted defense at their Phoenixes.
Mounted defense or Spreed get a little bit too saucy for their own good. Yeah, they mounted a defense. Yeah, clean defense from Mind the Gap there, while Heed kind of AFKs inside the Phoenix. SOT gets lazy back killed behind the left side tier 2, and Guy J was walking face first into a wall at the Phoenix as well. Oh, nice! We're getting an exact repeat, but this time Blugan is alive and Spreen's right behind him, and this damage output isn't great.
Half HP on the Fire Giant. Blugan is the only one here. He's eating a lot of damage, but will stay alive. Apple bounces off of the walls, but looks like FG might have been the one to lock down Crimson here. Spreen in as well. Oh, he steals it away. Come on. No rest for the weary here as Mind the Gap lose the Fire Giant. Quig is the only saving grace as a couple members of Spreed fall, but it's Spreen around the side that tosses in the final bit of damage. And now you don't have the FG takeaway from Game 1 that kept you in it a little bit longer if you're Mind the Gap. Guy J has the buff, SOT does as well. Brutal now for the mid lane Phoenix.
And now SOT is finding out that Wolves is able to fight in just a little bit. Guy J getting aggressive in the mid, trying to strip away that Phoenix while no one's paying attention. Unfortunately gets spotted out by Rom, and the Cabrakan is going to have to be forced to fall back. There's still so many objectives left on the map, so many towers that Spreed can work through. I mean, Primal Fury is available as well. This gold lead should very easily balloon to the realm of 11,000, 12,000 if they decide to play these objectives the smart way. Spreed hasn't been playing the smart way, though. They've been playing the manly way, the fun way, just kind of holding W and running it down. And with the grouping as it is right now, it seems like they're not going to stop.
No one. Blugan wants to get things restarted. SOT and Blugan against 4. Crimson will pull back 1, but trades out his life for it. Blugan takes into the ultimate, is going to lock in Layers, lock in Quig as well, but Spreen a little bit slow on the rotation moving in. You missed the pluck from there, and now Blugan is caught out. Spreen working his way back in, hits the Strife, but only onto Quig this time around. Quig's wall just off the mark, but it's kept Blugan funneled maybe exactly where he wants. Now it's an apple out from Spreen. A bit split in the fighting here. Mifflin has given Mind the Gap another advantage.
Yeah, they've been able to stick into these engagements incredibly well, but notice that Spreed are taking these fights 2 versus 5, 1 versus 5 whenever they want, right. And now Heed, following that exact same train, goes in alone, doesn't have the help of Spreed, and is going to fall in the back very easily to at least some ROM snipes if they're able to find it, and they should be. They've been able to do it consistently, and Layers picks up his own kill on that tier 1 tower. The only one left standing with Fire Giant is Guy J, who's taking up a 1v1 against Zeus. Probably don't want to do that.
He's going to die as Wolves makes his way over to the long lane as well. Guy J is going to try to at least turn around 1 kill. Dashes on in. The detonation from both. Aegis out by Guy J, and the final autos won't be there. Would have been a miraculous play. Mifflin, it's the same story as Game 1, but there's not a Titan where Spreed are fighting. Instead, it's kind of out in the middle of the map there. So Mind the Gap, keep all 3 Phoenixes alive. Gold lead at 6 or so thousand instead of 12 or whatever absurd number it was in game number 1. And now maybe a Primal Fury. I think you got to take these advantages where they fall, and Mind the Gap are doing so.
Yeah, 5,000 gold separating these two teams this late in the game is just about nothing, as SOT getting caught out in mid. Layers is there with a follow-up, but a nice dash forward to juke him out!
Hey, you think he's trying to leave, but instead he's trying to re-engage onto Griff, who picks up the kill onto SOT. What was SOT like? 5-2, and suddenly he's 9-6. I mean, it's been a 4-4, 5-4, something like that turnaround here from the Nemesis. Right when you think this game is going to snowball out of control, Spreed keep it within reach for Mind the Gap. Mifflin, we have 44 kills in 22 minutes. 22's across the top of the board. That's nuts. It's absolutely nuts, the pace that these guys are playing at now. The Fire Giant will be up in the next minute and a half, and maybe the smart play for Spreed is to take a deep breath, group around the FG, take it, and work in under some Phoenixes.
Only 4,000 gold separating, though. I'm not sure that they can feel incredibly confident taking a 5-on-5 engagement while simultaneously tanking up the Fire Giant. If they are able to find a pick, that should help out a lot. Wolves, probably not the target they're looking for. 4 versus 2, even worse.
This is what they're doing. Look at everyone else on Spreed. They're in the mid lane. They're backing back into base. Blugan is left alone here. Heed is going to have to try to get himself out alive. Luckily, Blugan plenty tanky enough, so he'll survive. Wolves blinks in, looking for the stun. Heed not going to take much damage either, as Wolves and Quig made their way underneath the Tier 1 tower, so Blugan stays alive. And now maybe Mind the Gap have used a little bit more than they bargained for. Really, it's just the cavalry charge from layers that's down. A couple blinks, though, across the board as well. And so Spreed stay alive to fight another day, and the Fire Giant right around the corner.
Surprised that Quig elects not to use his ultimate in that engagement. Once he decides to use the Salmon Leap, it would have been very easy for him to lock him down there. He had the team behind him. Zeus ult falls down as well. Would have forced him to walk backwards through the Zeus ult if he wanted to escape the Kabrakan cage. I think there was opportunities for a kill in that 4 versus 2 on the right-hand side, but it's just a little bit of discipline from Mind the Gap, maybe worried more so about the objective fight instead of a pick first, to save those ultimates, wait for this engagement. But Spreed are there first for the first time, grouped up as 4 together, all in the same place. It's where they're at their strongest, and it's the first time we've seen it.
It is, and they're going to group around the objective, and it's the Fire Giant that'll easily get taken down. So that's an interesting call, Miff. Are you surprised at all that Mind the Gap don't even show face on that side of the map, or have they just been feeling aggressive because Spreed is taking split-up fights, and really in the full 5v5, they still don't stand much of a chance?
I would have liked to see Mind the Gap show up there. They've got so many tools, so many frontline tools to spearhead their way into the defensive position around the Fire Giant that even had they just spotted it out, they waited for him to respawn, it could have been very easy for them to disrupt the fight as instantly Wolves gets evaporated from the map. Discordia damage and a crit from the Nemesis is all it's really going to take. Is, man, can someone mute these pings? These guys are so annoying. I hate the SOC, man. These guys are
They're pinging Gaijay. Come on, we want to fight with you, and he's not worrying about it at all, because they can get it done just fine. A Deathbringer Rage Hydra's Lament proc will half health a Sun Wukong nonetheless. Here's a big fight for Spreed underneath the Phoenix. Crimson not able to do much. Maybe Blugan will go down, and he sure will, but a 3-member grouping of Mind the Gap suddenly turns around a couple. Double Stripe means a big kill now for Layers, a double kill for the Nemesis. Quig trembling out, but he's not got the damage to deal with SOT. A triple kill down the stretch. This game is put to bed, and Spreed take it 2-0.
You know what it feels like? It really feels like, 1, this guy's ping privileges need to be revoked, but 2, Spreed ended the game the second they wanted to end the game. It felt like they were trolling the entire time, throwing up surrender votes, taking these 1 versus 5, 2 versus 5 engagements, and then eventually someone decides to ping Gaijay 6,300 times, force him to group up as 5, and they immediately win a fight cleanly. It just feels like Spreed might be a little bit too strong for their own good, getting a little bit overconfident in these games, and they almost throw one because of it.
Man, I don't know what SOT is doing in this game. He only had 13 kills instead of the 25 or 26 he had in game 1, so half the performance from SOT, but you know, it is the run back, Mifflin, and you know, I think maybe final thoughts here on Mind the Gap. Maybe an easy answer, but do you think that the run back looked better, at least in Game 2, to warrant any of those picks? Or are you looking for a full-on scrap of this composition for Mind the Gap in the future?
This is a very traditional Xbox composition, which makes sense to me since we have got 4 box natives coming through on this roster, and the idea works. Have 3 frontliners and 2 hyper carries on your team, but Zeus is not the hyper carry that you need. When we used to run this on Xbox, that would be a Chronos or something along those lines that just scales incredibly well into the late game. I think had they decided to use any other tool through mid, something that scales better, even like a Persephone, or literally anything else on the Mage tab, Poseidon Ra, something along those lines to follow up from a range, they would have had a much better time in these team fights. And I think that this draft could have worked out. So 4 out of 5 pieces, I'm willing to say it's worth it. Zeus, on the other hand, not so much.
I love the BM replay there. You have to do it. Look, Layers, it's an easy kill on SOT.
Nice freebie.
Trying to dash away. There's the damage from Spreed. Small mechanical, big maybe mechanical play there to steal away the Fire Giant. You know, even outside maybe Mifflin of the composition that Mind the Gap picked, maybe I'm just more surprised that they didn't change up their bans at all. I mean, they left the Nemesis on the board. Even 1 pivot to the Nemesis ban, and instead of something else, would have taken a 25-plus kill performance and then a 13-plus kill performance from SOT, and at least put it onto a different god that he has to perform on. But no changes and no problem for Spreed. They'll complete the flawless bracket here. 1-0 over FBI's Most Wanted, those poor guys. And then a 2-0 in the semis, 2-0 here in the finals. And this is a matchup I think maybe we start to get used to seeing a little bit of. SOC, though, in the books for the day here, Mifflin. We are, 45 minutes shy of the SPL starting. We got a doubleheader today, a tripleheader kicking off tomorrow with one of those makeup games for PK. First matchup on the slate here this weekend, Radiance versus Sanguine in the SPL. Who do you like in that matchup?
Radiance versus Sanguine, I think, is a very interesting matchup. I think it's going to be one of the more important sets of this week, just because both of these teams are on very weird trajectories. Sanguine almost re-evaluating and redefining the identity that they want to bring to any singular game, not taking these long games where they just wait for 25 minutes, now kind of shifting their focus towards the early game. And Radiance, in particular, has been switching up their draft a lot. We're seeing that Aurora is trying to shift his way away from that aggressive playstyle that we associate so closely with him, and instead is going for this more counter-engage centric playstyle, playing gods like Terra and Kepri. So I think that this is going to be a good time for both of these teams to really iron out exactly what it is they want to be doing against the other squads, and it'll be a nice little heat check for them both to see how they're feeling coming in with their new identities.
Agreed. Radiance had to reconvene. Sanguine had to do the same there as well. It's the battle for fourth place to kick off this weekend in the SPL. But first, we'll have the waiting room. Stick around. That one's starting here in about 15 minutes or so. We'll see you then.